Hamas wants to surrender. They're talking about giving up, guys. How about doing it? Nope. Boom, boom, boom. Main tank rounds in, killed everybody. On October 6th, no one was talking about a Palestinian state. It was a dead issue. Done. No one talking about it. No one cared about it except the Palestinians. And even then, which Palestinians? Not, Abbas, the president of Palestinian Authority. He's a total sellout to the Israelis, to the Americans, etc. Palestinian Authority doesn't care. Fatah had sold out a long time ago. The only people that cared were Hamas. Hamas is the only organization that really wanted a Palestinian state. And what did they do? They launched the most successful military raid in modern history. It wasn't an act of terrorism. There was nothing terroristic about what Hamas did. Hamas launched a military raid. Look at the definition of the military raid. One of the things that military raids do is take prisoners. Hamas certainly did that. Surprise attack to gather intelligence. They did that too. A surprise attack to destroy enemy capability. They did that too. And a raid always has a retrograde, which Hamas did, retreating with their hostages back to a prepared defensive position, another trait of a military raid where they awaited the enemy response, hopefully luring them into an ambush, which is exactly what happened. But it's not just the military victory that Hamas has a right to celebrate, and they will. I'm just telling you right now, people for years and years and years are going to be studying this as one of the greatest military raids of modern history, because it was the greatest military raid of modern history. There ain't nothing to compete with what happened on October 7th. And it wasn't an act of terrorism, people. 1,400 dead. It's been down to 1,200. I'm not being too picky on the cat. It's still a lot of people. But fully a third of those or more were military. And of the remaining, it turns out the Israelis killed about 80% of them. So don't blame Hamas. Blame the Israeli Defense Force. They're the ones that took the Apache helicopters to the rave in the desert and shot up all the vehicles. You know, the vehicles the Israeli government was showing you, all the burned out vehicles. Look what Hamas did. Look what. No. It was the Apache helicopters flown by Israeli pilots who didn't know who was good or bad on the ground, so they killed everybody. Literally killed everybody. They're the ones who killed all those people. Now, Hamas killed some too. There was some fighting, crossfiring. People hide into bunkers. Hey, you know what you do when you clear a bunker? You throw a grenade in the bunker. Hamas threw a lot of grenades in the bunkers full of civilians. They died. Guess who else did that? American troops. Read about the taking of the city of Aachen by the American troops as we went in street by street. When we went into a building where there was a sniper, we cleared room by room by room by room. And you'll read the accounts. They throw in a grenade first. They come in, spray it down. And it was a family of 12 there, all civilians, all dead. Tough noogies. I mean, no one celebrates it, but it's just called war. Those people were in the wrong place on a bad day to have a psychedelic rave. But the vast majority were killed by the Israelis, not by Hamas. The same thing. They talk about the Kibbutz Reim massacre. 112 civilians murdered by Hamas. They raped the women. They beheaded the children. They burned the bodies. They didn't do any such thing. I think the Israeli government, in addition to admitting that there were no beheaded children, they made that up, have now admitted there's no raped women. Hamas didn't rape anybody. And the burned bodies, they were burned by the Israelis who fired main tank rounds into a building, collapsing it, breaking the gas line, causing the building catch on fire, and everybody inside dies. Did Hamas kill some people? Absolutely. But again, I want to remind people, the kibbutzes around Gaza, they're not mom and pa dairy farms, guys. They're militarized neighborhoods. Each one of them has a dedicated security force that has been given weapons, and they have a job to mobilize and fight. So when Hamas is coming across doing their military raid, they have to treat each kibbutz as a military target capable of mounting an effective defense. And guess what? On occasion, a couple of the kibbutzes got their guys out in time, and they were able to repel the Hamas assault. So had Hamas rolled in slowly and properly and politely, knocked on the door, rang it, look up at the, what's that camera thing in the ring thing? Hi, it's Hamas. Open the door. We're here. They'd have died. They assaulted through, as you do with any military target, and you treat buildings. They had all the lists of who on the security teams were. And when they went in and they saw movement, until they could confirm, they had to treat as military, and they shot, and they killed dozens of Israelis this way. There's no doubt about that. But the vast majority of the 112 people who died in Reim kibbutz were killed by the Israeli Defense Force, especially not on October 7th, but on October 8th. even in the morning of October 9th, because the Hamas guys were pinned in buildings with hostages. They were actually on the phone with the Israeli forces. The hostages were saying, hey, Hamas wants to surrender. They're talking about giving up, guys. How about doing it? Nope. Boom, boom, boom. Main tank rounds in, killed everybody. The one lady who gave an interview said there were 40 Hamas guys, about 18 of us. When it was all done, all the Hamas guys are dead or captured, and 16 of the 18 hostages were dead, killed by the Israelis. So let's stop this nonsense. This was terrorism. It was not terrorism. But what came out of this? Everybody's talking about a Palestinian state today. Everybody. So we need to understand this, that there will be a Palestinian state. Optimism is there. Tony Blinken just said it's the number one diplomatic priority of the United States right now. The only reason they're talking about, and I'd love to ask Tony that question. Hey, Tony, understand you. Can I call you Tony? Or do you want me to call you? We'll just call you Tony. Hey, Tony, you just said it's the number one priority of the United States. That means it's something that you support. I support the Palestinian state. Did you support the Palestinian state on October 6th? Was it the number one priority of the United States then? Well, no, it wasn't, right? It wasn't. You weren't even thinking about it, right? No. So what made you think about it? Did Benjamin Netanyahu call you up and say Israel supports a Palestinian state and we'd like our good friends Americans to do that? Well, no. You know what caused you to do this? Hamas's attack. Hamas's attack pushed you to do the right thing. So we have to stop viewing the Hamas attack as an act of terrorism. It wasn't. It wasn't. It's a well-planned, well-executed military raid that had distinct political objectives, number one of which was the creation of a Palestinian state. And they're succeeding. It's happening. It never would have happened without this attack.